As you saw in the prior video, I finally got into naming some of the kill streaks and Call a Loco should be using. And how they should have worked all these fucking years and what we've been playing with this bullshit. So for my next magic trick, we get into the long forgotten and underappreciated Airstrikes. Now the gameplay you're watching comes from Heroin XBL, but I've always known him by his PSN name that had Jesus in it. So I'm gonna call the motherfucker Jesus because that makes my life nice and simple. And for those of you who are interested in sending me in your gameplays, by all means, send them in. I have plenty of ideas that are going to be going into the BluePrint series, so I need content. There's no need to ask whether or not, oh, can I send this to you and I have this game? Just send it. Don't worry about it. Send the motherfucker. Now, I can't guarantee that I will use your video or use all the videos, but I will certainly use the ones that I could fit and that have a good length of time. 10 minutes is a safe bet. I've pretty much been averaging 10 minutes minimum on all the BluePrint videos. So if you go over that, I could certainly work with that too, because as you guys see, I love to talk. Now, have airstrikes ever been that great? I mean, be honest and think about this for a second. Aside from a few useful items, have you ever felt like airstrikes were amazing rewards to use? For me personally, airstrikes are merely a function towards receiving a vehicle, sort of like a buffer or a cheap way to get a few potential kills without having to run out there and get into gunfights. Usually, I used airstrikes that were conveniently set up right before major air support vehicles. Think of like a Predator missile. That was a major one. You get to the 5 kill streak mark, you hope you drop the motherfucker, you get a 7 kill streak, and you get a Harry up in this bitch. But when you get to the 6 kill mark, when you get the precision strike, it was like, was it worth it to use the 6 kill streak? Couldn't I just wait to get one more kill to get the Harrier? For me, I always went with a vehicle when it came to those situations. Why bother with a 6-point precision strike when at 7 kills I can get a chopper or a Harrier or something? Why bother with a 9-point stealth bomber when I could have the Pavlo out on this motherfucker, or the 8 kill B-52, what was that shit in Black Ops 1? When you had a Blackbird as the other option. The reality is, airstrikes are just filler to help you get a vehicle. No more, no less. And I can sit here and try and make these shits as appealing as possible, but it's not gonna happen. So I decided to just make sure that airstrikes that I did use added some kind of variety and added some kind of purpose towards getting your vehicles. I also wanted to make sure that I didn't pull a Treyarch and offer something lethal before a 5 kill streak, like that fucking piece of shit RCXD car. Oh man, if I had one of those, I would drive it right up David Vanderhaar's asshole like a colonoscopy vacuum tube, man. I ain't fucking joking about that shit. But anyway, getting back to the airstrikes, there will be 8 options from the airstrikes, starting from the lowest to the highest. And again, the point totals on the side are just more of a visual guiding point. Precision strike will return, and that would be at the 5 kill streak mark, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Also at the 5 mark, I would have a multi-position strike, which we'll get into. You guys have seen it plenty of times before already. The Predator missile will return, and that'll be around a 6 kill streak mark, along with a Hellfire missile. And again, I'm going to explain this when we get into the detail. Next up, I have the OTR-23, which needs a better name. So for now, I'm going to call this motherfucker the Fart Bomb. And you guys will see why I want to explain this ship. After that, we're going to have the White Phosphorus Airstrike. We're also going to have a Bunker Buster and a Stealth Bomber. Now, for this group, you can have countless items, but for my purposes, I chose 8 airstrikes, so let's kick it in with the details. The Precision Airstrike is something we've seen in Call of Duty since back in Call of Duty 4. And I'm going to return it back to the 5 position that it usually started with. And it'll be the same 3 bomb drop on a single location. I would increase the area damage a bit on this motherfucker so that it covers a little more area. You know, whether the bombs themselves have a more splash radius or whatever the fuck, or if the 3 drops are spread out over a bit of a wider area. But I think the only improvement I would make is the size area of the damage that it can do. That's the only improvement I would make. Also at the 5 kill mark, or 500 score streak system, whatever the fuck you want to call this shit, is a multi-airstrike, which is 3 individual bombs placed in 3 individual areas. Basically, it's like the Black Ops 2 version of the Lightning Strike, if I'm not mistaken. Now, individually, these 3 drops will have a smaller radius compared to the Precision Strike. However, if you combine the total sum of their radius, I would like it to be very similar to the Precision Strike. So if you decided to drop all 3 right next to each other, basically it would just be like a Precision Strike. But personally, I wouldn't recommend doing that. Ideally, you want to put them in 3 different spots so you can keep fucking dropping shit on people, man. So that's the best way I would do that. Keep these 2 items in the game, but obviously show the varying differences so that they don't feel the same. At the 6 kill mark, or the 600 level, whatever you want to call this shit, I would use the traditional Predator missile. Remain user controlled all the way to the floor. Really no change to this because it's always worked fine the way Infinity Ward has used it. Also at the same point level is what I'm going to call the Hellfire missile, which you guys can go Google or YouTube or some shit because it is a real world missile that militaries use. Since the Predator missile comes from a top-down perspective, you know, like it's being fired from an overhead drone or a plane or whatnot, the Hellfire missile would come from off the map. Think of like a submarine or a naval carrier firing the sucker from a distance, and you have to control it coming into the map. Sort of like the Valkyrie rocket from Black Ops 1. It has a similar design to the Predator missile, it's just that it's fired at a different angle. But the big difference between this and the Predator missile is that it will have no splash indicator. Right now, you can see on the mini-map when a Predator missile is going to strike, you see that motherfucker. You see the little target heading right above you. With a Hellfire missile, I would remove that indicator so I can keep them a bit different. There will be no advance warning for enemies when this motherfucker is coming down. Next up, we have the OTR-23, which I have nicknamed the Fart Bomb. This was a chemical missile used by the Soviet Union back when they were invading other countries and shit. You know, they were being all fucked up Russians and shit. Anyway, this will be a placed missile, similar to a precision strike. You pick your location on the map, and that's where the motherfucker will drop. It will kill on impact, and also release a toxic fume capable of poisoning enemies and your teammates. Yes, this will kill teammates as well, which I will explain for a minute. But as for the enemies themselves, the missile will kill you if it impacts you, and the toxic fume will remain after the fact that will kill people that walk through it or walk within range of the fume, whatever the fuck. As far as teammates being affected by this, the impact of the missile will not kill a teammate. So if you drop the fart bomb right on your teammate, that won't kill them. However, the toxic fumes will affect you since this is a chemical attack. Now, I would reduce the effects against teammates by, say, 50% or so they have more of a chance to escape than an enemy would. But enemies would have no reduction in the effect of the fumes, and the fumes will last a good 10 to 15 seconds or so before you can safely move through the motherfucker. And yes, this is annoying by design. It is lethal shit, and I'm sure trolls will throw this in their own spawns and be assholes with this motherfucker. Now, Tactical Mask would reduce the effects of the fart bomb missile, but it's not going to fully prevent a death. I'm not going to give you immunity in this motherfucker. It'll just reduce the effects slightly, but it's not going to completely heal you. You can't just sit there and sniff in fart gas and all that stupid shit. No, it'll just give you a temporary relief from it killing you. But in all honesty, I think we have to add an item that has teammates pay attention to where they release these motherfuckers. Because right now, you can just drop a Predator missile, you can drop a Precision Strike, no fucking big deal. But I want this fart bomb to actually be a strategic item. I would also set a limit as to how many you can drop. Sort of like how you can only have one chopper in the air and whatnot. I would only have no more than 2 missile fumes active at the same time. So if 2 fart bombs were set off and there are 2 toxic fumes still on the map, a third fart bomb cannot be launched. The game will prevent you from launching another one until one of those fart fumes have finally whiffed away so that it no longer affects enemies. Now, a notch above that would be white phosphorus, and anybody that knows a little bit about military weapons knows this is some nasty shit. Think of napalm strikes in Black Ops 1 only as a burning chemical. Put it this way, if it touches you, your skin will begin to burn and you're going to lose huge chunks of skin. On top of that, if the poisoning gets into your bloodstream, it's going to then begin to shut down your organs. This is evil and torturous shit. It's perfect for a video game. Anyways, a white phosphorus strike will be just like a napalm strike in Black Ops 1, where the drop comes in a long streaking direction and the burn effect will remain in place. Now, unlike Black Ops 1, there is nothing to protect you against this motherfucker like fucking flak jacket. Much like in real life, this shit burns through protection, it burns through clothing, and it even burns through chemical suits. You name it. It is potent shit. It is not to be fucked with. And just like the fart bomb missile, the burn effect will also impede your teammates. They will not be affected by the actual drop, but they will be affected if they decide to walk through the actual burning effect of the motherfucker. But unlike a fart bomb, if you get some white phosphorus on you or you walk through the motherfucker, you will not heal. If the burn of the white phosphorus doesn't actually kill you, the health you have left after the effects wear off will never increase. You will have that blinking red blood screen until you're finally killed by an enemy. And eventually when you're killed, obviously your screen will go back to normal. But I want to make sure this is some evil and fucked up shit. If you walk into it, you will not heal. It will keep your health as low as possible as when you survive the motherfucker. And then eventually when you get killed, you'll go back to normal. But the idea of this, I want to keep people hurting after this shit when they walk through it. Now, also in conjunction with the fart bomb, there would be a limit on the uses this as well. I would combine this and the fart bomb for usage on a map, so you can only have 2 of these items actively burning at one time. So you can either have 2 fart bombs, 2 white phosphorus bombs, or 1 of each, but you can have no more than 2 active on a map at the same exact time. Now, I know people might complain about trolling or people being assholes with these items. However, how many times do you see a teammate nowhere near the objectives playing for kills or playing like a bitch? How many times do you see a corner camper on your own team? Now, you can literally light a fire under their ass. You know, team players are not going to fuck people over on purpose with these. We know that. People who are playing as a team, they're not going to say, hey, I'm going to drop this shit right on top of your head and watch you burn. No, it's not going to work like that. They're going to use this strategically, but obviously, trolls are going to fuck with people, but the idea here is that I did at least provide teammates with protection so that you have a better chance of surviving this if somebody decides to fuck with you with this. Moving on to the next item, and something that I have personally wanted for a long fucking time, a bunker buster bomb. A bomb specifically to kill people indoors. My bunker buster would be at the 9 kill streak or 900 level, whatever you want to call this shit, because this one is meant to get people that are indoors. Right now, you can take cover from most airstrikes and survive the motherfucker. But this bad boy will blow the asshole off of a burrowing gopher, man. If you hide in a building, that will not save you. Matter of fact, bunker busters are a guaranteed kill in a building. There is no hiding from this motherfucker. It'll work like a precision airstrike, but it only allows you to target buildings on a map. You cannot put this in a random spot on the map. You cannot put this in an open field. It will reject that request in the positioning. It will only lock on to buildings on a map. You can bring this up in the target screen, and the only thing you can lock on to are buildings. Yes, this fucker is meant to get people out of buildings. It is designed to remove that corner camper sitting in a fucking building. No matter where they are in that building, this will kill them. People outside of the building it hits may take a little splash damage, but they're not going to be killed by that motherfucker. But this really is designed for that one motherfucker that just won't leave a building. He sets up shop in that bitch with claymores and whatnot and will not leave that shit. Now, because of the high degree of success this item will have, I have placed it at the top of the airstrike list because there's literally no fucking hiding from this. I mean, hell, if you want to avoid this motherfucker, you're going to have to haul ass and jump out of a window or something. But if this shit hits a building, you're dead. Plain and simple. If you're in a building and this motherfucker comes down, you are not surviving. Also at the 9 kill streak level, or 900 score chain, whatever you want to call that shit, is the stealth bomber. Effective, powerful, covers an entire area of the map with a trail of bombs like we've all seen before. This won't kill people indoors like a bunker buster. However, it will disorient them like it did in Modern Warfare 3. You know that effect when it hits you and you have that fallout effect on the motherfucker? That's what it'll do, but it will not kill you indoors. Now, airstrikes will be part of the traditional package, which I've laid out before. The support package will have all non-lethal shit, so this is not applicable. And the killer setup is only for user control vehicles, so the only category this could possibly fall into is the traditional category. Now, like I mentioned before, with the traditional system, you're allowed to pick a surveillance item, an airstrike, and a vehicle. However, things that overlap, you'll obviously not be able to take. So, for example, SAM turret is listed as a 6 kill streak, and so is a predator missile. You would not be able to equip both. You'd only be able to allow to choose one of those 6-point items. So you'd have to choose, say, a SAM turret and then another airstrike at the 7, 8, or 9 mark. You would not be able to combine the two 6-point kill streaks. Also, you do not have to worry about taking a lower level surveillance item and then picking an airstrike. What do I mean by that? You can equip a predator missile and an advanced UAV with an airstrike. Obviously, the airstrike is occurring before the surveillance. Back in Call of Duty 4, we used to have the UAV, then the airstrike. Here, you can equip them in any order you want. You want your airstrike to drop first? You can certainly do that. You want to hold off on your advanced UAV? You can certainly do that. You can pick the fart bomb before selecting the body heat sensor. It doesn't matter. You are not restricted from choosing a surveillance item before an airstrike. You can pick the airstrike before the surveillance item. So we leave that choice up to you. We leave the idea of how you want to set up your character on your own with the traditional system. Anyway, that's it for the airstrikes, including the famous fart bomb. Next video, we're going to conclude this motherfucker with all of the vehicles. So as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit. And I'll see you guys in the next video.
Never a doubt. Good job.